Women in Leadership, brought to you by HeronCode, the management consultancy for what happens next. For more information, you can visit HeronCode.com. Ladies, gents, welcome back to the HeronCode Women in Leadership podcast. And you know the drill by now. Every single episode, we have another story, another journey to absolutely celebrate, but also learn from people of all different backgrounds, sectors and industries. I am your host, Nimi Mehta, and today's episode is absolutely wonderful. I'm excited to get into this one as we are joined by Melanie Potvin, who is a celebrated nurse, educator and executive. Melanie has really built a culture of unwavering support and fostered a workplace environment that thrives on innovation, and I cannot wait for you to hear more about her. Melanie, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much, Mimi. Nice to be here.
I'm so excited for this because, I mean, just for everyone to know, you just hopped off a plane, came straight to come and sit with us.
Yes.
You're a lady in demand.
Yes.
You're a lady in demand. You're a busy lady, so I'm glad you made time for us, Melanie.
Absolutely.
Now, our listeners will know this. I love to go back in time and take you back in time to where it all started. So we know that you are a celebrated educator and executive now, but it began somewhere with a little girl dreaming big, and that little girl was born and raised in Canada.
Yes.
Tell me about that time.
Sure. So I was born and raised in a small to medium-sized town in northern Ontario, Thunder Bay, Ontario, to be precise, in Canada. So as a little girl, I was, I would say, if you had to describe me, very precocious, a bit of a tomboy, actually.
Yeah.
Really enjoy spending time at the cottage. It's a really northern type of lifestyle on the lake. So I have a lot of passion for the outdoors life and for being on the water, and had a great experience growing up as a child.
Yeah, wow. And tell me, were you into academics? Were you more of a creative? Were you more sporty? Not to put labels on it, but just looking back, what were you drawn to?
Well, I definitely wasn't sporty, although I did enjoy again the outdoors and some sports, but that wasn't really my stream. I was more on the creative side as well as the academic side. I had always been an honor roll student and always done quite well in school. So,
wow.
I'd like to dabble in the arts, and so
explore,
get a little bit creative.
Explore, absolutely. And what was the mindset then in a small kind of community? What was kind of the culture, I guess, that you were raised in?
Well, it's interesting because, as a child, I never really aspired to be where I am today. I wanted to be in healthcare. I knew that. Whether that was going to be nursing or the physician stream, I wasn't quite sure until I got more into my late teen years. In the upbringing in Thunder Bay, so it was a working class town. So, big dreams. Yes, some of us have them. But for myself, I just wanted to contribute to healthcare.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, and yet here I am today. So it's interesting how your life journey takes you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Was it normal for people to leave the small town and go to the bigger cities? Was that?
Well, when I was younger, no, but as, I started to get older in the teens, and there was, the industry in the town was kind of shrinking a little bit at that time. So, yes, anybody that had ambitions, certainly for a larger, whether it be business, healthcare, academia, etc., did at least temporarily move out of Thunder Bay. But you can never really get the Thunder Bay out of anybody that's lived there. Yeah.
I love that. So why healthcare? What drew you to healthcare?
It's a very good question. The sciences always interested me, particularly the health sciences. And, my family has been in healthcare. So my grandmother was she was a pharmacy technician. My other grandmother worked in healthcare. I had a really good friend as a child, and her mother was a nurse. And her mother was really actually a mentor to me as a young child. Yeah, so looking at her and seeing what she did, and particularly she worked in the operating room, so this is how you'll see in my early career I went into perioperative nursing. So and she was not only a mentor to me as a young child, but also coincidentally enough, when I went through nursing school in Thunder Bay, you have to do some practicum or preceptorship, and got out of the elevator in the hospital, and there she was.
Wow.
So I didn't know it up until that time, but so I knew I had really great support. So, that's how I ended up actually in healthcare.
Wow. Wow. It's important, isn't it, to see people you know and love in, and not necessarily even know, because I have idols in the media industry that I've never met before in my life, yet I see myself in them. Is that something that you feel like you had with her? You saw someone in a position that you potentially wanted to be in. How important is it to have role models in whatever industry you're in?
I think growing up, it really is true that a community raises a child, right? Especially I grew up in the 1970s and 80s. Don't tell anybody that. Oh, wait, we told everybody. But really, there was such a community. So you were outside every day, and your friends, their parents, also became mentors for you. And so you kind of raised all of us together, all of our parents. And as you go through life and journeys when you're a child as well. So, you might look to different adults that are in your life to help guide you in different ways. Yeah. And you'll look at them and you'll say, I really like how she interacts, or I like that perspective, or I really love how she supports, her family and myself. Right?
Yeah.
So it was just, it was a great experience. I had lots of mentors, women, strong women, and not all of them worked, right? So, which is interestingly enough as well, in terms of how you build your character over time.
Yeah, absolutely. Influenced by so many. So what was healthcare culture like? I mean, this is a stereotype. I know nothing about it, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. Woman-dominated, very female-dominated in the nurse healthcare sector. Tell me about that. Was it quite a supportive community?
Well, yes, nursing through history is a feminine vocation. So although that's changing, right? We have a significant number of male nurses that are entering and progressing and excelling in nursing, which is great. But certainly when I started, it was definitely a feminine vocation. And again, in the 80s and the 90s, so, before I started nursing school, I also was a medic in the Armed Forces Reserves as well, actually.
Wow.
So, which was an interesting time in my life in terms of a journey to see what you're made of in terms of discipline and stick-to-itness. And being a medic, you also have all of the training, which is a little bit different than nursing. It's more technical in process, but certainly that's where you saw a little bit of, from the medical side, that's where women were in the military, right? So again, if you're looking for that feminine vocation at the time, certainly that was the stream that you were in if you were headed in that direction. But once I left the military and went to nursing school, I would say 98% were female.
Wow.
There was one or two male students. And Mark, if you're out there, hello. I hope he has a good chuckle when he sees this. But certainly we were good friends, myself and Lydia, and if she's out there as well. So, we went through nursing school together. Definitely feminine dominated, and it was a different culture back then in terms of what we call medical hegemony, which at the time medicine was strongly male based, right? So now things are starting to really see balance out and getting that 50-50 and sometimes even 60-40. But when a physician would come into the nurses' station, everybody stood up. Everybody stood up and went for rounds, and you had your clipboard, and you just really carried out what the physician's orders were. And although nursing was progressing as an independent profession, certainly there was still that male sort of physician-driven dominance at the time.
So as a if you were a strong female in those times, with a voice that you had an opinion and you wanted it heard, was the system built for you to be able to express yourself and share your opinions and things that you have to say, or was it more of a case of just stay stum and let's just get on with the work?
I think it depended on the relationship that you had with the entire team, and as well as the perceived acumen that you had for whatever you were working at, whether you were in the operating room or the ICU. If you were certainly considered an expert, the go-to person, that carried a lot of weight and respect. So it was more about how you're contributing as an expert nurse and less about the feminine, right? So if you were very good at what you did and how you supported the team, and in general, you were well respected, and there weren't many issues, to tell you the truth, right? So long as you sort of observe those norms at the time.
Yeah.
Certainly, I do remember a time when there was an incident that I'm not going to get into, but anyways, it was a female male gender, actually, with my mentor, Heather.
Wow.
And she really stood up for what she believed was right.
Wow.
And interesting, this is probably the first time that the organization really sort of took notice and said, what's the right thing to do here? And really supported the perspective of Heather, which in my opinion, was the right thing at the time.
Yeah.
And it really propelled the team forward, although definitely went through some transformation and change, and it was a difficult time for everybody in the unit and the team. But certainly, most of those hurdles have been overcome, right?
Yeah.
And by many different things, just cultural norms are changing. And the proportion of male to females in both vocations, whether it be physician or whether it be nursing or physiotherapy, pharmacy, we're all sort of finding that balance together, and now everybody is really being respected for who they are as an individual, what they stand for, their values, and their technical skill. Yeah, so.
And that support and, I guess from the organization is so important. I mean, you've been recognized, you've got great recognition throughout your career. You've got nominated as the Canadian Hospital News, the 5th Annual Nursing Hero Awards in 2010. I believe you've got a few other nods as well. And that recognition in the workplace, what does that do for an individual? Not just for an individual, but the team as a whole as well.
Well, I think with regard to that team, that was my first leadership position, my first formal leadership position.
Wow.
And I came into the group at a time when they had been through multiple managers. There was high entropy or dissatisfaction within the team. Of course, that had been measured by some satisfaction surveys. Overtime was high, sick time was high, and there was just a general angst among the team. When I came, in fact, my first day, quite interestingly enough, I'm a firm believer that we're all here to support every patient in a hospital. So regardless of what service you're in, whether you're in surgery, medicine, ICU, pediatrics, that patient that's coming through the emergency department is still our patient. And so flow in Canada in particular has been challenged and is getting even more challenged today as patients become more complex. There's more technologies to prolong life as well. And so we're in a bit of a crunch. And so working together and innovating is extremely important. So my very first day on the job, it was actually in the evening, and we had some challenges moving patients through the emergency department as an organization, and we were asked on the surgical ward to take some patients. So I just went out and all innocent, naive, like, of course everybody's going to be really happy about taking an additional patient. We have beds available.
Yeah,
not a problem. So the team was, out at the nurses' station, and And I was talking to the charge nurse, and I said, okay, we have to, we're having some issues in the emergency department. We have to create some capacity. We've been asked to take a patient. And so, the charge nurse was yes, but then there was this other nurse. She says, absolutely not. We are not doing that.
Oh my gosh.
And so, as a junior, first-time leader, you're like, first day, the challenge is there, right? And so, you try those textbook leadership techniques, you tell them why, this is why it's so important. We have patients coming in. There's no bed if somebody critical comes in down in the emergency department. And, she essentially was just not having it. And so I just ended up having to make an executive decision at the moment. And I said, I hear you. We're going to be taking this patient. And then had to follow up with the charge nurse alone, and then that individual alone. It's really interesting how it progressed through that, because over time, and with the challenge of the team, it was really to actually help them to be empowered. So the behaviors were really about feeling disempowered. It was not necessarily about, well, we don't want to help patients. It's just a feeling that they had at the time that they had very little clinical decision-making in the environment around them. So autonomy is really important for healthcare professionals. We're working with people that have gone to school for a significant period of time. They've been in the profession for a long time. That, like 20 plus years of experience, is they want to be valued for that and contribute in the decisions. And of course, this is what we want to do as good leaders. In my philosophy, I don't want to make any decisions that I don't have to, right? Especially when we're talking about patient care. So the further you are away from the bedside, the less you should make those in the moment decisions for the team. So, shortly after that, what we did was, really started to develop a sense of a team. The reason we are here in the hospital and what we want to achieve together, right? In speaking with them, the things that were really frustrating them, again, was that autonomy. It was also the thought that they couldn't have, time off for certain things. And so, by just addressing these little things, one step at a time, giving them the opportunity to innovate, helping them to understand and support lean management, and allowing them to make mistakes that are not critical to patient, but maybe in process because they want to test it out themselves and gain that professional esteem. It was really important to them. Being their coach and their mentor and their advocate, and really standing up, I think, for what was right, and the consistency, I think, in my leadership. So everybody knew that I pride myself on being a just leader, right? So I try not to play favorites. If something happens, you're going to get a very similar reaction out of me. If you're asking for something, then it has to be something, if I'm going to permit that, then it has to be something that I would do for everybody, right? And so really work towards principles in leadership.
Yes.
Right? Long story short, I guess for, the leadership at the time over the 5 years, we really developed a very cohesive team that went from, being way over benchmark in indicators to really excelling. So now the overtime is low, the sick time is low, staff satisfaction is high, the turnover rates are low, and the team is happy. And, so when it was time for me to move on to the next organization, they wanted to, recognize me. And so the timing was right when the National Nursing Hero Awards was on, and how privileged am I to have had such a going away demonstration for how they appreciated my leadership. It almost gets me verklempt right now even thinking about it, because that's when that you're making that connection, when your team is performing well and happy. Because you can be a good coach, mentor, and have a leadership style where your team is happy but not performing for an organization. So you have to have that balance.
Well, it's such an interesting vision, though, especially for that time, because, the whole don't take it personally, it's just business. I struggle with this because business is personal to me. And especially in healthcare, there is nothing more personal. There's no more personal of an industry than healthcare. These nurses are hands-on. They need to be empathetic. They need to understand each patient as an individual. And so in turn, they also want to feel like they're treated as individuals, catered to their personal needs, emotions, their lifestyles, what's going on at home. And now the world really has changed. I would say, especially since COVID, organizations have understood that this is important to understand. So it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. In order to create a good team, you need to have happy individuals. So how did you do that as a leader? Because it's quite time-consuming as well to understand the individuals within a team.
Sure. Some need more of you, want more of you than others, and some need more attention.
Yeah.
Some, believe they don't need more of your attention, but they actually do. So, first you really try to sit with your team one-on-one and get to know them. And you have to try to really, what I try to do is I try to understand each of them as an individual. What's motivating one, what's driving them? Because something for one person is not going to be the same.
Yeah.
Some nurses, they just want their patient assignment. They might like the really tough cases, the challenging. Some of them really like working with the elderly. Some like working, in the critical situation of post-surgical patients. So there's that aspect. But there's also the aspect of how do you coach and develop, particularly your new nurses that are coming on that might have ambitions to one day be a chief nursing officer. So you have to stream there and guide them in the direction that will help them get that depth and breadth of experience to keep them interested and help moving them forward. So I do try to meet with them, understand them as an individual, ask them what are they looking for? What are your goals? What are your aspirations?
Yeah.
And then support them. I really try to get out of the way.
Yeah.
And I think as a whole, I like to share stories of my leadership journey, which the feedback from them is quite positive, that they enjoy hearing and understanding the positive things and some of the things that have been challenging in myself. And I use that a lot in coaching.
Yeah.
You can see really ambitious, bright talents that one day they're going to be up there, right?
Yeah.
But you have to be careful sometimes as you're on that journey to guide them to not sort of leave a huge wake, right? Because the emotional intelligent aspect of your career is so important, right? So helping them to understand how some pieces in my own journey, right, and some perceptions through that journey, may have helped me at times and may have also hindered my progress in certain things, but also gave me the information and growth, the professional growth and personal growth to be able to be where I am today, right?
Absolutely.
And I think that sharing that vulnerability is really, really important. As people that are, really driven to exceed, a lot of times they have a perfectionist about them. And so to think or share with the world that, maybe I'm not perfect, right? But I found through my career to, admit and really reflect on the things where we have opportunities, and also to share that vulnerability with the people that you're coaching and mentoring. Teaches them to, it's okay. You don't have to be perfect. Ask for help, right? Because you get into trouble if you try to have this perception that you're perfect and you're not, looking to, your trusted coaches and mentors to help you through some of the challenges.
Absolutely. And I guess as a leader, what would you say are the characteristics of individuals that you would see as good team members?
So, first and foremost, integrity, right? When I enter the team, like even if we look at the team that I've entered right now, there was some, dynamics at play. It's a new organization, right? So everybody's kind of finding their way, and it's full of bright, talented people. And so, of course, you're going to have some differences of opinion, maybe some fears, or maybe they're going to get recognized or I'm not going to get recognized. So really, when I come into a team, what I try to do is establish the set of principles and values by which I'm looking for in a team to see how we're going to excel, and just create, do we all agree with this way that we're going to work together?
Yeah.
And one of the first things that I set is that the value of integrity, and that we work as a team, and there's enough room for everybody to shine if they want to shine.
Yeah.
Some people don't want to be in the spotlight, right? But for those that do, there's enough room for everybody. And in fact, you're going to shine more in my eyes if you're helping your person beside you, the IT technician, to also be successful, right?
Yeah.
How are we going to work together as an entire hospital, not just the nursing team? Because when we do that, our patients are safer, they have better outcomes, and they have a better experience. And that's where you get that professional esteem and that organizational esteem. And so I'm very careful to set that stage right in the beginning. Otherwise, in my experience, what you'll find is, some Machiavellian sort of things going on. People are trying to manage you up. They're trying to manage other people up. So I try to reward, I demonstrate visual rewards for people and teams that work together to make a collective goal happen. And it seems to, historically, it seems to work for me. I don't know.
You're clearly doing a very good job at it. I mean, ever since that time, you went on to take on a lot of leadership roles. This year in particular has been a big year for you. You made a huge change into private healthcare. And not only that, but you also moved to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. How has that been? I mean, we're so happy to catch you in the year of transformation.
Yes. So exciting.
Yeah.
So, well, interestingly enough, about 5 years ago, I have an acquaintance through a good friend of mine that has been working in the Middle East for some time. Okay. Actually in Abu Dhabi and most recently Dubai. And, she talked about how much she really enjoyed working in the Middle East and the culture. And I said, yeah, I would love to do this. Yeah. And remember, I love traveling. Like I've traveled many, many places in the world, and I love to ingrain myself in the culture. So I'm not just about seeing, the big towers or going to the shopping mall, but I really try to stay in and amongst the locals if I can in Airbnbs and try to get to know the culture. So how exciting for myself, especially with Saudi Arabia opening up, and with the really progressive Vision 2030 that the kingdom has to support sustainability and economic growth and really great access to healthcare. Yeah. So why wouldn't I want to be part of that?
It sounds like an absolute no-brainer. And I mean, a brand new culture. I mean, really experiencing it from the roots. You're really in amongst it. How has that been? A very different culture to Canada and what you were used to.
Well, first off, the people of Saudi Arabia have been nothing but gracious. Yeah. They have been so kind and welcoming. And all the other residents and expats have also been so warm and welcoming. And so it's interesting because, I thought, well, maybe I'm going to have this big culture shock. But, certainly there's cultural differences. Yeah. But humans, in general, this is actually part of what I wanted to come and see. Like, are humans the same everywhere? At the fundamentals, what all of our hierarchy of needs and, people in different cultures, are we all driven by the same thing? And I'm happy to say that, in my evaluation, we are. Everybody wants to contribute. Most people are kind. I believe in the kindness of people. Absolutely. Even for people that sometimes you don't get along with, right? So it's been an amazing experience. Again, everybody's been welcoming. I'm trying to learn Arabic.
Love that.
So, and they're helping me to do it.
Yeah.
And we have some good laughs when, I mispronounce something or, get the context wrong.
Yeah.
But in terms of healthcare, healthcare is delivered in English. That's the language of healthcare in Saudi Arabia. So that transition for myself in terms of how do we, guide our teams, how do we build organizational excellence and nursing excellence, that's very similar to Canada, right? So, in the journey and the goal at Al Salam Hospital for us is to have the best nursing team that can provide the best care and to draw our patients in, because Al Salam's going to be the provider of choice. Absolutely. And the only way that we can do that is through strong leadership that has accountable teams that are focused on caring for the people that are caring for the patients.
Yes.
And so, helping a team to, come together as a multicultural expatriate team, as well as all of the growth in Saudi nursing.
Yeah.
Amazing, right? And really key to having a self-sustaining healthcare system. Right now, nursing worldwide is under a significant shortage. And even if I look to Canada and the United States, they're really drawing international nurses. And so when I come to Saudi Arabia and I said, well, where are we going to be drawing our nurses from? As, Saudi Arabia starts to build their universities and their nursing school programs, we're still reliant a bit on expatriate healthcare providers. Yeah. And so now they're in competition. We're in competition with Canada.
I love that.
But certainly, so we have to, when we're thinking about onboarding people, it's even more important right now to make sure that the staff of nurses feel supported, feel that they have the autonomy to provide the best patient care, and that are supported to learn and grow. Yeah. Because then they'll stay, right? So retention is almost more important than recruitment at this point. Wow. So.
Well, I have to ask you, because such a huge change to come across the world. You were incredibly established and achieving where you were. So I wonder how you knew it was time for a change and for a new challenge.
Well, we're just kind of getting over the COVID, and I had a significant life event. I had lost my adult son just before COVID had hit. So,
I'm so sorry.
Going through all of those pieces personally in my life, I just felt I needed something to re-inspire and reinvigorate myself, right?
Yeah.
Both from a professional and personal level. And so when this opportunity came about, I thought, wow, let's do it, right? Yeah. And I'd always wanted to go. We'd always planned, actually.
Oh, wow.
I remember for my girlfriends, we all said, okay, we're going to do it, you know? And, I'm at the age where, my daughter, my other children, they're grown. So, it was a time. My husband has yet to come with me, but so he's, I think, coming in November. He has an established business as well, but we've been married 32 years. Yeah. So, we've grown up together, the two of us. And so our relationship is strong and both dually supportive of each other. And so I feel very blessed, right?
Yeah. Wow, absolutely. So Vision 2030 is really prominent in the kingdom, and the world knows about it. But what's your vision for the future for you? What's next? Where do you see yourself going? I mean, that's a big question, because I know you just planted your feet in the kingdom this year. But where do you see it going?
Well, I'd like to finish the transition. So usually when I start something, I like to finish the transition and achieve the goal. And, I would really like to, continue to focus with Al Salam in the journey towards excellence. We're mapping out, a strategic roadmap for nursing that's in alignment with the strategic roadmap for the hospital as a whole, right? Yeah. So you need consistency and leadership to be able to do that, right? And we've got a great leadership team at Al Salam. So, so I see myself continuing at Al Salam Hospital. Amazing. Continuing to build nursing and to really end up with the same outcome with a team that is vibrant, has excellent esteem, professional esteem, that's
Yeah.
providing fabulous care. And of course, perhaps maybe one day we'll have a magnet status.
Yes.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
I have no doubt. Under your leadership, I have absolutely no doubt. Melanie, it's been such a pleasure having you on the podcast. Thank you so much for jumping off a flight and making your way to the studio here today. And we wish you all the best of luck with all that you have coming ahead.
Thank you so much.
Thank
It's been
you.
a pleasure.
Thank you. Women in Leadership brought to you by HeronCode, the management consultancy for what happens next. For more information, you can visit HeronCode.com.